White farmers there are being murdered at a rate of more than one a week as the country's government vows to seize back land without compensation. It's causing enormous stress, of course, to the South African community in Australia, worried about family members back home. News Corp Australia chief reporter Paul Toohey travelled to Pretoria and Johannesburg to find out what's going on. We'll talk to him in a moment. First, a look at his special report.
The shots rang out. It was just bullets everywhere. It was a war zone.
Mariandra, her husband and 3 kids were attacked on this small chicken farm outside Pretoria.
My husband said, "No, please, my friend, just take what you want. You can take anything, just leave us alone." My little girl put up her hand and she said, "But I've got a piggy bank. You can take my money." My husband said to them, "Please." And the one guy said, "Oh, just kill him, brother." And they shot him between the eyes in front of us. Our little boy was born 5 days after Daddy's funeral.
A record 400 plus farmers were attacked across 2017. Between 1 and 2 were murdered every week. Ricky and her partner Pete were attacked at night by 4 men.
They came with an iron, a normal clothing iron. They burned me on my leg, telling him that they're going to hurt me if he doesn't open the safe. And he tried again, and then they burned him on his back. I'm out of hospital, but he's still in ICU.
Burtis was shot 3 times just a fortnight ago. He is vowing to stay and fight for his farm.
I was shot 2 times here, and once here in the neck, and it went outside my head. You just feel that burning feeling, and it's a hell of an impact. This stuff is happening every day in France.
New South African President Cyril Ramaphosa has vowed to seize white land without compensation. South Africans living in Australia hold grave fears for loved ones back home. Paul Toohey, News Corp Australia Network, South Africa.
Well, Paul Toohey joins us now from Darwin. Paul, a pretty powerful story that you've collected there. Let me just go to why this is happening. You've spent time there talking to the families directly affected by this. We saw the president there saying they can be, the land can be taken without compensation, but that surely doesn't mean under law they can be murdered. So why is this happening?
Well, I think what's happening is in South Africa there's just an extraordinary level of high criminality anyway. But on top of that, there's been this narrative that's been running for a number of years about retaking white land, and every time this conversation comes up, it seems the attacks on white farmers are increasing. Last year we saw an all-time record number of farm attacks in South Africa, more than 400, and as I said in that story, more than one person murdered every week. I think what's happening is Ramaphosa has come to power. There's a minor party called the Economic Freedom Fighters who have been pushing this very hard. They've joined together to pass a motion to say they will take land without paying any compensation, and this is seeing another up-ramp, if you like, in attacks.
And what are police doing about these cases? Are they properly investigating them? Is it a tokenistic effort? What are the police saying?
The police seem to be doing very little. I mean, if what we've seen over there is police do respond, they will turn up, but it seems hardly anyone is ever arrested. I think another problem with South Africa is there's been this mandate to employ the so-called previously disadvantaged at any cost, and that's including in the police force. So we have very lowly skilled police who don't seem to have the capacity to investigate these crimes properly.
What about the families themselves, the farming families there? Now, you would forgive many of them for wanting to just get the hell out, take their families and flee the country even, but clearly they're not, despite what's going on there. Tell me about their resolve.
Look, it's some are very stubbornly resolved to stay and fight. But the other problem is that the rand is very low at the moment. Selling a farm is not easy, and to add to that, one particular organisation called Black Land First has issued threats that not to put land on the market. There's a record number of farms on the market, but anyone who buys those farms will be considered to have bought stolen land. So they're in a real bind, and added to that, farmers don't tend to fit the category of high-skilled migrant workers that Australia might typically take, and so they find it very hard to migrate here, as many other South Africans have done.
And are they, in turn, arming themselves? I mean, how are they dealing with their personal security?
South Africa is very much like the United States in its gun culture. A lot of these places have things like electric fences, and they have dogs. But as I learned, these electric fences look intimidating, but they give you 10 or 15 minutes extra time to prevent an attack. They give you the time to go and get your guns and defend yourself. So it is extremely hard when you're living in a remote area with no immediate neighbours to defend yourself and to call for help. The first people on the scene normally to these farm attacks are not the police, but networks these farmers build among their friends and colleagues who will generally respond first.
And clearly, finally, Paul, they're not getting a lot of help, support from the government there, but in researching this story, what do you think about the international response on this? Is there much international pressure on South Africa?
There's very little pressure on South Africa. During the week, I contacted 10 or so Australian human rights, civil rights organisations and individuals and asked them for a response as to whether Australia would view these people as suffering a humanitarian crisis, or whether our government should put more pressure on them, and I didn't get one response. There's something about the South Africans, the Afrikaners in particular, they just seem to attract no sympathy.
Paul Toohey, News Corp Chief Reporter, thank you very much for joining us. Well done on the story too.
Thanks, David.